everybody knows a typical Michael Chandler fight, man. I'm going to put my foot on the gas, get in his face, put him on his back foot early, and
take my
try
money.
to knock him out. My Mystic Mike prediction, I knock him out in the second round. I beat him up pretty bad, wear him down in the first, make him second guess himself, and then bam, hit him with a hard one in the second. He goes down, and we jump on the cage, maybe a backflip. We'll see.
And now, Brandon Thick Boy Schaub.
My man, Mr. Chandler, you've gone Hollywood, dog.
I'm trying, dude. You know me, just trying to go Hollywood.
Man, Mr. Big Time. You won the freaking Conor McGregor sweepstakes. And I say won it. I mean, you've earned it, man. And last time we spoke, we were hoping for a Conor McGregor fight, man. And here we are. You're freaking, you're going against the dude on the Ultimate Fighter series, which is dear to my heart. That's how I got my career. How you doing, buddy? How you doing with everything? You're busy, man. We were talking yesterday. You're like, I'm going to Zoom. I'm headed to this meeting. And then right now you're like, we got to get this going. Like, you're a busy dude.
I'll try, man. Well, I don't like people waiting on me, number one. So we had some webcam issues going on. But yeah, man, life is good. Excited that this show comes out here in a couple weeks. I've been kind of, obviously we got done filming it in March. Yep. So here we are in May. So it's been, a long process kind of waiting for it. And I know it's going to be an awesome show. People are going to love it on ESPN. Like you said, last time we spoke, you said I was the UFC cash cow, man. I'm going to fight Conor. And I was like, well, we'll see what happens. And then turns out here we are, Ultimate Fighter, ESPN, which was an awesome show experience, by the way. And then fighting Conor later this year, whenever we figure out a date.
Oh, we'll get to that. But did you had a good time shooting the Ultimate Fighter? Because I was a coach on there for the 6 weeks when I think it was season 14 with Shane Carwin, Roy Nelson. So it's such a different experience as a coach and as a fighter. Did you have because to be honest, some fighters who do end up being coaches don't enjoy the experience because you're in Vegas. It is a lot of work. It's like if you actually care, it's a lot of work. And I know you're a guy that when you do something, you're all in. So I'm sure it was a lot of work for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I vastly underestimated how hard it was going to be. But you can make anything as hard or as easy as you want. I could have shown up, gave a half-hearted effort. But as soon as I met my guys and I shook their hands, looked them in the eye and said, hey, man, I'm proud to be your coach, immediately fell in love with every single one of their stories, why they're there, the ups and downs that they've had in their career, the things that they've struggled with. And it made me want to pour into them that much more. So every single morning, woke up, I had a few minutes to kind of do my morning routine, focus on myself. And then it was hit the ground running nonstop, thinking about them. How do I get each of these 8 fighters in the best possible situation? Not all of them are going to be able to win the Ultimate Fighter because, there's only one per weight class. But we can at least give them the best opportunity to either become that guy who gets the contract or become that guy who shows up on ESPN in front of millions of people and pulls on the heartstrings or wins people over. Even if he didn't win his fight, he still might get that UFC contract. And I took that to heart. I took that pressure and that ownership of their careers very seriously. So I think I made it a little bit harder on myself than a lot of coaches would, but it's how I like to do do like you said. And it was a very good experience. It was a very good experience.
Yeah, I expect nothing less. I'm sure Conor was a great coach, but when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, a lot of guys are going to be on Chandler's team. A lot of guys, because I know you're going to put it in. But also going back to, there's guys that win the Ultimate Fighter, and obviously they're guaranteed a contract. But for the guys, and it's changed over time because probably since season, 11, 12, it changed. It's just, obviously they weren't on Spike anymore and it got a little diluted, stuff like that. And now I think the seasons, especially since you and Conor on this and it's ESPN, these guys are going to get that fan base. When before, if I was managing fighters, I'd say do Dana White Contender Series. That's a much better way to get into the UFC. But now that it's a Chandler, Conor McGregor, it's on ESPN, everybody's going to be able to see it. Now those guys, you have 6 weeks, and that's how I viewed it when I was in the house. I have 6 weeks to make a name for myself and to get a fan base. Whether I win it or not, the plan's to win it, but if you don't, you're still going to have that opportunity. So even if you don't win the show, if you're a semifinalist like I was, or if you have a good showing and people vibe with you, the UFC is still going to give you that shot. So those kids need to realize like this is their moment. Literally 6 weeks.
Yep. And that's what I was telling them too. And because ultimately, everyone's vying for that spot to be the winner of the show, obviously. But you can never underestimate or undervalue just being who you are, create a fan base, create a following. Even if you're the worst guy on the team, so to speak, you could still win the hearts and minds and be the guy who gets the UFC contract because you have such a great following. Because, the UFC is really good at knowing where the analytics are, where the impressions are, who people are talking about, who's using the hashtag. They understand who is trending well. That's more important sometimes than the X's and O's of winning fights. And it probably is actually more important. So I told those guys that, was able to talk to them about the business and the branding side of being a mixed martial artist. And man, it was a lot of fun. I love Team Chandler. Team Chandler loved me, man. We had a really, really good time, a really good camaraderie on our team. And even the guys on the other team, man, I still was vibing with a lot of those dudes too. Because ultimately, yeah, they're on Conor's team, but they're still like, hey, man, that's Michael Chandler. He's been there, done that, been watching him for years. So it was cool to even cross the line or cross over enemy lines a little bit and see the guys and talk to them, go to the house, hang out with them. Because ultimately, I wanted the best for everybody on the show. I wanted the best for Team Chandler mainly because we wanted to win.
For sure.
But ultimately, everybody there was cool. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to become stars after the show if they can continue what they've been doing.
Yeah, and what's the theme this year? Like, as far as like, when it was my season, it was heavyweights. Before that, they've brought back older dudes who didn't have a shot in the UFC, and this is, or they had a shot, didn't go well, and they bring them back. I've heard a little bit of the rumblings. I'm not paying too close attention to it. Is this the same thing? Guys who have fought before and they're bringing them back?
So that's been out there, obviously, and they also released the names of the guys. And I think they did that toward the end of the show. They actually put it on one of the fights. So
that's normal.
So which would make sense, kind of get people hyped up and whatnot. But yeah, I think the idea is the prospects versus the veterans, So
that's cool.
It's cool. You would think, hey, the prospects, they're young and they're salty and they haven't gotten the shot, but then you think, hey, the veterans have gotten the shot, but this is their opportunity to get that shot back, get their second chance. Very few times in life do you get a great opportunity at a second chance, and this is a great opportunity for a second chance. So, man, it's cool. It was a fun season, and it was eventful. Obviously you've been seeing the promos out there. Got a little handsy with Conor.
Why did you push your face like that?
I don't know. It was an interesting move. I kind of liked it. It was pretty cool. I was like, but to the face. All right, I like it.
Yeah, because in your head you get it. In your head you're like, yes. Well, and also too, it's in the heat of competition. I mean, say what you want about Conor. Conor, he's a competitor. He wants to win. He wants to win every single fight. He wants to win the show. He wants to beat me later this year. So of course, the ups and downs of the Ultimate Fighter experience. You got the fights going on. He's in Vegas for 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I'm in Vegas. We're away from where we is home, if you will. You're living on the road. And you got a camera in your face all the time, wearing a microphone the whole time. It's a different experience, as you know. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Were you surprised by Conor in a positive, negative way, how he was with the kids, how he was off camera, how he was on camera? Because there's one thing to be around Conor. He has this energy. There's a reason why he's such an outlier amongst all of us. And when you see it, like, I get it. I get it. I can't do that. What I do well. But what he does, he just has this aura he has this energy when in the same room. Did it change your perspective being, shooting a show with him, being around him this long, on camera, off camera? Do you see a different guy or?
Conor's definitely good at turning it on when the cameras come on. He becomes the notorious Conor McGregor, and then outside of the cameras, he's actually very similar in both senses, to be honest with you. Yeah. But it's definitely like, hey, when it's time to go, it's showtime, and we're not worried about feelings. We're not worried about what we say. We're not worried about what happens. We just kind of see what happens, But ultimately, too, I hadn't spent a lot of time around Conor. I fought on the same card as him. My debut in the UFC, so I shared a press conference with him. He was the nice Conor for that fight, that second fight with Poirier. So he was definitely a little bit different than he was on the show or now. But also, Conor is a larger than life figure to a lot of people. We see a ton of him in the media, online, all over the place. But to spend that much time around him, the human being in the same room with him, it just like you might have seen guys in the media and watched what they've done, but then you get in the same room with them and it humanizes them.
Yeah.
2 arms and 2 legs, and it's a human being there.
Exactly.
And it's, so that was interesting. So it actually, I think it was a good thing.
I was going to say that helps you, right? In a little bit, it helps you. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of, because maybe the first time we see each other is at a press conference. Now you're fighting against him on a press conference, and he's still that mystique guy. Correct. Compared to spending your normal everyday life with him, where it's like, hey, I just got back from lunch. He's going to lunch, or he's walking in the training room. I'm leaving the training room, and you just see him living his normal life, not always on, if you will, or not the figure that he is. So it was cool to, be there. It humanizes him a little bit. He was able to, we've sized each other up a little bit. We see the size of each other, the way we move, and, our commitment to our teams and whatnot. So it was good. And I'm excited to compete against him.
And were you surprised at his coaching? Obviously Conor has a high fight IQ, and obviously you do too. So, I knew you'd be a great coach. I'm with Conor. I don't know. That's why I want to see how he interacts with the kids. And those kids, again, I was there. You rely so much on the coach. You really do. Especially Rashad was my coach. He's been through that. So what he said carried so much weight. I'm sure those kids are looking at you and Conor. Same thing, man. You guys have so much power, and it's a great responsibility towards these kids.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, me and Conor are different in a lot of ways. I think, he has built a ridiculous brand. My brand is not where his is, but it's continued to grow just through who I am and how I conduct myself inside mixed martial arts. So I think my guys knew, whether they were on my team or Conor's team, there was a different approach by each coach. But I do think, watching him in the practices or seeing some clips that have been leaked or whatnot. I mean, he was there. He's talky. He talks a lot. I mean, you even see him at bare knuckle, coaching guys. You saw him at the Ryan Garcia fight, coaching guys after the fight. Hey, talking to Ryan Garcia. Hey, you could have done this. You should have done that. Kind of and I don't know if he's just playing up Conor's a coach right now, while the Ultimate Fighter's about to go, or, but I think he looks at the game and he's not afraid to give his opinion, where I'm more of a, in normal life, I would never walk up to a guy who just lost a fight and be like, hey man, you probably should have done this or done that. Maybe I should, but with my guys, when we're training, and it's like, hey man, you got to be better at this. You got to get off the wall. You got to get up. You got to grab the wrist here. And they could feel it. Even if I might've rubbed in the wrong way here and there, they knew it came from a good place, because we have to put them in the best situation possible to win on fight night. So
going through this whole experience, if you were asked to do it again, would you have said yes again? It's a lot, right?
When I got done with it, I came back and I just felt adrenaline dump, hungover for like a week or two. It was tough being on that much every single day, because we actually filmed it in 4 weeks. We filmed it all in 4 weeks, which means
2 weeks less.
Which means, so it's less than usual, because we had a hard stop we had to get done with it, but also because it was 4 weeks, we had to cram everything in. So there was no off days. There was like 1 or 2 actual off days in a 30-day period. So I think if I was asked to do it again, if you ask me, by the time it gets done and it airs and we see the momentum behind it, the viewership, the response, I mean, it's going to be really cool. If you would have asked me right away, I'd be like, I don't think I ever want to do that again. But now I'm like, it was 4 weeks and it was fun. It's going to be a huge show. I would definitely do it again. So it was a lot of fun. And painfully hard.
Yeah. There's a reason, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it. How do you think knowing what the kids go through and stuff like that, and especially doing it in 4 weeks, is absolutely insane. 6 weeks was insane for the fighters. Looking at the fighters, you think if you would have went that path, you would have done well in the Ultimate Fighter house? Because it's different, right? You're dealing with different. Yeah. I always tell people that are going into it, when they ask me for advice, I go, you're not in the UFC. That lifestyle is not a UFC lifestyle. It's a very intense, different type of fighting style. And you got to worry about injuries. If you're cutting weight, that's a different animal. And you're dealing with all these personalities. You can't really escape it. Like that's the UFC kind of on steroids, but also the fights, there's nobody really in the room. So don't get me wrong, it's fighting, but it's not UFC fighting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what those guys had to go through was a lot harder than what I had to go through, I think. The Ultimate Fighter house, it's changed since the house that you were in, and I think they bounced around a couple different times. I mean, you're talking 16 guys, one house, couple bathrooms, but then only a couple bedrooms too. So you could be in a bunk bed with there's gonna be 6 guys in one room, so it's like you say, you can't escape it. You can't escape it. You could kind of see it wearing on the guys. Some days are just like, dude, this is tough. But then the fights get closer, or the weight cut gets closer, and then they start to kind of rise to the occasion. So it's just as much a mental battle as it is the physical battle, because truthfully too, I was getting those questions too, kind of before when it got announced, hey, how are you going to coach the guys? And truth be told, it's like, hey man, these guys got their certain attributes, and there's really not a lot you can change in a couple week period.
A great point.
So physically, hopefully they came in shape, and hopefully they got a good set of skills, and we're going to fine tune a couple of them. We're going to fix a little deficiencies, but mainly I want these guys right here to believe that they can go out there and believe that this is their opportunity, believe that they could be the winner of this thing. If someone's got to be the winner, why shouldn't it be you? So that was my main goal. But yeah, I mean, the fact that you can't escape it. A couple of times I went to the house and visited. Then I started realizing the atmosphere they were living in. I'm like, man, this is tough for sure. For 4 weeks
kind of like
straight,
60 days in. If you watch those people like volunteer to go into prison, it's kind of like 60 days in.
Yeah, well, and what some people, or a lot of people, don't know too is they probably think they got access to phones, radios, TVs. There's nothing. No, they didn't.
Books.
Their phone. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No books. So basically, no form of entertainment aside from they were playing. I might play like checkers or cards or whatever. They had like little games like that.
We can't even do that. There's no checkers. We drew like cards to play like poker. They got rid of those. Justin Wren brought a Bible. They took his Bible away. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane, dude. Well, and also think about it. I shot that in 2009, like early 2009. Yeah. Cell phones weren't like they were around, but it wasn't like it is now. So think about those younger kids who are addicted to TikTok and Instagram and all that. And then they got to go cold turkey for 4 weeks.
Dude. Yeah. So you think about that. And then you also think about, it's 24 hours in a day, and they're only showing an hour per episode. So the viewers on ESPN this summer are only going to see 12 hours of footage, and only parts of that is going to be actually in the house. So the 24 hours in a day that you're stuck in this house, can't leave. They say they all signed an agreement like, hey, if I go over this, like they had a basketball court, and if the ball bounced out, they had to like go ask for permission, because if they jump that fence to go, they're like, hey, you're out. We'll kick you out. Because, because you got to control these guys. Obviously, it's a liability. You're stuck there. Like you said, it's kind of like prison. It's got, so obviously we're not giving away anything that's not already out there. You're stuck in the house. That's what it is. But I think people don't quite realize what it's like to be stuck in a house. It was almost a privilege and a present to be able to leave the house to go to training. Most of the time,
wait. Yeah, because that's your only getaway. It's the only way to switch things up.
The only time you leave those 4 walls, right? So for me, it would be very, very tough. You're just sitting there. They're basically forcing you to talk to these people, and maybe you like them, maybe you don't. Maybe you and me are fighting each other 2 days from now, and now your room is right next to mine.
Correct. Yeah, I had to find my buddies. Yeah, man. Had to find my buddies. You see him going through his morning routine. You're like, oh, man. You see him focusing, that morning, and you have that fight that night. It was so – if you had to describe in one word, intense. It was so intense. It was really intense.
It's always on.
You're always on, and then you can't escape it. You can't escape it. There's always a camera. Those necklaces. I don't know if it's still that. The necklaces are the kids' mics. And then also what I found – sad, but also gave me confidence is when you live in the house and there's 16 guys, when the guys would lose and they still have to stay in the house because there's still got to be training partners. So you'd see their dreams just get shattered, especially the guys that lost in the first round. And they came in just full of hope and this is my moment. And then you just see their dream get snatched, and you got to be around that.
Stuck.
And then they're stuck. But you got to be around that. And you still got to stay focused for your fight. Yeah. And you're seeing this guy who's just distraught, writing love letters to his girl. When I get back, I'm done with this stupid fight game. And you're like, yeah. And you're still trying to do your thing, man. It's an insane experiment.
Yeah, it is an experiment too. Yeah. It's a perfect way to put it, because you're like, this is an experiment in the human condition. And even as a coach too, obviously, you got to deal with that, guys winning or losing, and you got your guys in or you got your guys out, and then it's like, okay, how do you handle these guys? They're not part of the competition anymore, but they're still part of your life. They're still part of the team. You still want to say, hey man, maybe your dreams got shattered. I get it here. This is a tough situation, but hey man, come show up for your team and
Stay
you know,
positive.
and I'm here for you, but you know, I still got to focus on these guys who are trying to win this competition, if you will. So it's a crazy experiment was a perfect way to put it.
And the other thing you got to realize too with those guys, and we didn't know it at the time because, you know, it was only season 10, but those, especially I was younger, but you got to remember, like you said, those episodes are only an hour long, you know? So those kids who are there, in your case, 4 weeks behind, 6 weeks, they're going to edit certain things. So you got to be aware, like they can paint a narrative. And I don't agree. Like I know some people from the past Ultimate Fighters go, they edited and made me look like an asshole. I'm like, no, dude, you're an asshole. Like this show opened you're just an asshole. Like maybe you're not an asshole all throughout the day, but when you're in that setting in training or whatever, you act like an asshole, man. He's like, no, they edit that way. I'm like, no, you said that stuff, dude. So I never co-signed where they're like, oh, it's the editing make me look bad. I'm like, no, dude, that you did that stuff. They're not telling you to write things, you know? Yeah. And I came off as arrogant because, you know, it's a fight and you want to show confidence and you believe in your training. So, you know, I would talk shit about some fighters or say certain things. And if people only see that, like, oh, this kid's arrogant. It's like, no, that's a version of me getting ready for competition. I was very confident in my skills, but that's not me. That's me getting ready for a fight. That's all it is.
Yeah, you know, you inside of a training camp or as you get toward those last couple weeks of training camp, fight week, fight night. You're not Brendan. I'm not Michael. I'm not the guy that my wife married. I'm not my son's dad. I'm this guy, right? And then all of a sudden we get done with the fight, win, lose, or draw. We got to go back and then we can be normal again. But that's what these guys lived for, you know, 4 weeks, if you will. And then also you can kind of see it too. You know, obviously they draw for the fights, you know, who's going to fight first week, who's going to fight second week, all that different kind of stuff. You could see the shift in guys' mentalities. There was a little bit of happy-go-lucky stuff when they knew they didn't have a fight for what it maybe be a week or two or whatever it might be. You know, it's like a relief. And you're like, okay, I can kind of chill for a second. Then all of a sudden it flips. The other guys who were fighting go back to, okay, I can let the guard down a little bit, act like a normal person. But then the other guys go straight into psycho mode, you know? So it was fun, man. It was for me, I just felt like every single day I was just reacting because you never know, even though most of the days are pretty similar. Hey, we're training at this time. We're training at that time. Here's the guys. Here's what we're doing. These guys are fighting weight cuts, but here's kind of planning it all out. Every single day was still a crapshoot in a lot of different ways. You're mic'd up on camera in real time at all times, constantly thinking about what you're saying, what you're doing, where you're at, what's happening. So it was an experience, man, but it was, I would definitely say it was a positive one. It was a good one. You know, come what may, like you said, I am already seeing, you know, a little bit of a tweaking of editing and whatnot. When Conor said, hey, you'll do what you're told. I'm like, okay, so I was just sitting there like that.
Yeah, I know.
Say anything.
Yeah.
You know, even though we're kind of like, now we know they're already starting to paint a picture.
That's how it goes, brother. You can't
Connor's
control that stuff.
Crush me.
Yeah, you can't control that.
Crush me in the trash talk game. So I'm okay with it, you know. So it's all of it is fun, and it's about to be a fun 12 weeks.
Dude, you got a glow about you. Obviously, we don't want to reveal anything, but I can tell you fucking did well. Your team did well because you're a good coach. I've seen you coach. You're a good coach. You know what the hell you're doing. It's gonna be good, man. I can tell you did well.
It's gonna be good.
You did fucking well.
I love Team Chandler, man. They're good, man, and we're gonna keep reliving the experience too. Like we're in my studio right now. We're gonna do a tough reaction show every single week. Just kind of
on your network, or is ESPN doing that?
Well, I am doing one with ESPN, so I'm actually going to go live with Dean Thomas after every episode that airs. For only, it's not going to be very long, maybe a 10-minute little clip deal. But I'm going to be doing my own show right here too, where we can maybe Wednesday morning or Tuesday night, whatever we decide. But it's going to be kind of in real time. Well, guys, just got done with it. Can't believe this happened. Here's how it actually went down.
Yeah,
hey,
man.
I can't believe they showed that. Or hey, now you guys know what I'm talking about. Now you know how hard it was. That kind of firsthand experience of this was tough. Dude. I might actually have to have you on there, especially because you have the experience, just who you are now.
Yeah, let me know, brother, and I'll be reaching out to you, hitting you up because I haven't paid attention to the Ultimate Fight in a hot second. This got me excited. You know, I can't wait. Here's what's crazy, dude. Here's what's crazy. When you came out here, I was like, dude, you're the show pony for the UFC. Like you can get something big. Looking back on things. My God, did it work out when you left Bellator?
Yeah.
Right, dude? Like you're the guy, you're the example. It's like a lot of guys have, left UFC, went to Bellator, vice versa, Bellator to UFC, or go on to one championship, or we're at PFL. But my God, if I'm a agent or manager, I'm like, look at Chandler. He did it.
Yeah.
Look, dude. What a freaking story, dude.
Yeah, it's worked out really well, man. And it was a tough decision. I've talked to you about it, on network or on camera, off camera as friends. These are tough decisions that you're making because I had a really great thing going and there was a huge risk that I was going to take, but the huge risk has now become a huge reward. And here we are a couple days away, a week and a half away from being on ESPN for 12 weeks straight and then fighting Conor. And it's worked out well, man. So
you bet on yourself. You bet on yourself. And in correlation to that, it's also like, I'm sure you're aware of the Francis Ngannou news, signed with the PFL. Have you seen the terms on that deal and stuff like that?
Some of it, you could brush me up on it. I saw some of it. I still have a hard time believing that he was going to make as much money as he would in the UFC as the UFC champion with pay-per-view stuff, but sometimes it's more for some people, a very rare sector of people, it's less about the money and more about the impact. And I think that's kind of where Francis's heart is. I mean, so I think, I wish him well. I saw him in Vegas, actually. I ran into it at a steakhouse.
Great,
and we were kind of like, hey man, what's happening? What are you doing? What's next? We were talking about boxing, we were talking about whatever. And it worked out well for him. So
yeah, I think it worked out well. The pressure I don't think is on Francis. He signed the deal. It's the most lucrative deal we've seen in a hot second. The pressure's on PFL. The things that they need to pull off in order to get their investment back after giving Francis all that stuff. So Francis did great for him. Now the pressure's on PFL to see if they can pull it off. They don't have the roster to fulfill, to sell pay-per-views. They're giving them a portion of the gate. So hats off to Francis and Markel. They did it. Now PFL's like, okay, we better figure this out. So the pressure's on them, man.
Well, yeah, and they're basically diving into a brand new market for them. They have never sold a pay-per-view. You saw Bellator do it. They didn't do very good. They've never.
Kyla did. They did with Kyla Harrison. I think it did 5,000 pay-per-views. But I'm not even trying to be funny. It did maybe 50. You might have to look at it. It did not do well. But pay-per-view model's it's a different animal. So again, the pressure's on them. But again, Francis is banking on himself. This thing is still a success, I think, if he can get the big boxing fight. And Anthony Joshua announced today, he had a statement going, no, I'm not going to do that, that circus act and fight Francis. And I'm like, oh, no. So I hope it works out for him.
It's tough, yeah, because now he's put himself in a position where he's kind of I guess you could say circus. You could say he's different, just because he went out, but still he was the UFC champion, baddest man on the planet, if you will, or whatever. So it's unfortunate. It could blow up in his face, but that's why, sometimes you take big risks and it works out well. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's more intrinsic than it is extrinsic.
Look at you,
bank account, whatnot.
Like I said, I say, look at you,
Yeah.
Now you went to a big machine and PFL is not the same machine. So it's still different, but at least he bet on himself,
Yeah, well, and from where he came from, and true rags to riches story, he's in a good spot. So
my king's still John Jones at heavyweight, but whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now, I guess the biggest question is my only concern with I think this season Ultimate Fighter is going to be huge. It's going to be massive. Is it going to beat season 10? Of course not, but it's going to do well, right? Yeah. So my only caveat with that is I would feel so much better about it if I knew when you and Conor were going to fight. That would make me feel so much better. Do we have any insight on that?
No insight really, but I do think that's the general sentiment by a lot of people. It's almost like we're watching this show. Should we be excited about altercations between Chandler and McGregor, or are they not going to fight? It definitely makes a show better if we know when the fight's happening. So, Conor came out the other day and said there's going to be a fight announcement soon, or a date soon. So I think I won't really get nervous or anything about it till June 1. That's when I kind of put my time limit on it, if you will. But for now, we're going to enjoy the ride. Conor loves the sport of mixed martial arts. He loves being the guy. He loves being in the bright lights and in those stadiums and whatnot. So I think he's coming back. He can't do all.
Oh, you guys are fighing 100%.
Yeah. Just like you don't know when.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that you and Conor are going to fight. Guarantee it. If I had to bet on, I'm a betting man. If I had to bet on, I bet November, Madison Square Garden. That's what I bet.
No, I've kind of been leaning that way. Yeah. I haven't been told that at all.
No, me neither. This is me completely pissing in the wind here. Yeah.
It's a big, could be a big show. Obviously, November is always huge for them. Usually Madison Square Garden, 30th anniversary of the UFC. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense. You always kind of start putting the pieces together of what the big shows, big fights, big venues would be. And that one kind of makes sense. But, I'm not here to figure that out.
No, you just keep doing your
all
thing,
set
man.
up. Just keep on doing my thing.
Keep crushing it. When you look at Conor, the other thing that's kind of tough, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. When you and Conor do fight, it's like, what version of Conor is Chandler going to fight? Because it's kind of up in the air. You know, if you look at the Aldo tape when he was at 45, well, that doesn't make much sense. You look when he fought Eddie Alvarez, he's different even when he was at 55. Look at the Nate Diaz fights, I guess. The Khabib, I guess. And then do we know what weight class you're fighting at? Is that 70, I think Dana said?
I think it's a 170, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
It's not 155, and it's not 185 like we were joking. I don't think. I would love to fight at 185. But,
You'd be
170, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be 170. But, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And I think Conor's been carrying around this new weight that he's been building for the last 2 years. He's been carrying around for about the last, year or so. I've been carrying this body mass around for the last 15 years.
You woke up like
it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he performs or what kind of fight style he's going to be, how well he moves. Are we going to see the Aldo type, karate stance fight in, like he was at 45? Are we going to see more of a precision striking killer like he was against Alvarez, like you said, or is he going to be a little bit slower, less movement, less whatever, because now he's a little bit heavier, put on some muscle mass. So we'll see.
I also think this is the first time in Conor's career he's fighting a guy who has more knockout power than him. I think this is the very first fight he's ever had where he's fighting a guy who actually hits harder than he does.
I believe that, for me, but I also think he knows that, which excites me, but everybody knows a typical Michael Chandler fight, man. I'm going to put my foot on the gas, get in his face, put him on his back foot early and
take my
try to knock him out. My Mystic Mike prediction, I knock him out in the second round. I beat him up pretty bad, wear him down in the first, make him second guess himself. And then bam, hit him with a hard one in the second. He goes down and we jump on the cage, maybe a backflip. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe a backflip. I assume a backflip.
I assume a backflip.
Did you see they announced that July card is so freaking stacked? But they announced Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier too, man, for the BMF belt.
Dude, good for those guys, man.
Right?
I mean, the BMF belt, they're definitely two BMFs for sure. Tough fight to call.
It's a toss-up, dude.
It's a toss-up. So whoever lands that night is going to be the one who ends up winning. But they're both heart of a champion, great cardio, great striking, both hit really hard. So that'll be a fun one. I might have to go to that one actually. So
Salt Lake City, you're going to be at that one.
Yeah.
For you too, it's like with this Conor fight, you're at 155, but you're going to fight Conor at 70. You beat Conor. You're probably the biggest name at 55. So you go right back to 50. Do you think a win over Conor gives you the title shot at 55? I would assume so.
I never say never, and I'm never going to say that I deserve that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that could be in the cards because, UFC knows what good business is. They know it's all about attention, big names, big fights, especially when I finish Conor the way I think I'm going to in a dominant fashion. It could very well be in the cards, and I would love to go out there and, fight Islam or whoever has the title at that point.
Would you stay at 70? Would you consider staying at 70 if they go, we'll give you a touch up, it's at 70? Because it's kind of it's kind of jumbled up,
Shoot, I mean, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It depends on if it's a title shot, obviously, but it'd have to be the right matchup at 170.
Colby Covington.
Colby would be a good fight. I would love that Colby fight. I loved the idea of the Masvidal fight, man. I wish him well in retirement. I loved that fight. Diaz, I'm sure Diaz is going to end up coming back.
Agreed.
And he'll fight at 170, So like there's some cool, big, fun fights out there too if I don't get the title shot.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I don't think I deserve a title shot necessarily, but if they give it to me, I ain't saying no.
Yep, hell no. And we'll get you out of here on this. I know you're a busy dude, and one thing I respect is when guys are parlaying their opportunity, in the spotlight and doing other businesses. You got a lot going on. You're at some golf event yesterday. You got you're doing all that. You still got your fitness app and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you got your podcast. What else what are we doing here, man? What else you got going on?
So we're building the podcast out. The Tough Reaction Show will be happening. We have the fastest growing peanut butter and jelly sandwich company in the world, Cram Nutrition. I got to send you some of those.
Please do. What's that about?
Yeah. It's essentially a healthy Uncrustable. So it's, no crust, but it's all organic ingredients and no sugar added, high protein, like 19 grams of protein.
Oh, my kiddos would destroy those too.
Good. I'll send you some.
Please
and then
do.
just, some investments, building the brand, continuing to get after it. And, fitness app is doing well. Walk on Fitness is doing well. So we're enjoying it. We're enjoying the ride, man.
I love it, man. Family's good. Kiddos good.
They're all good, man. Growing like crazy, getting after it nonstop.
Yeah, it's getting famous. They'll deal with it.
I guess.
I guess.
They'll figure it out.
Well, brother,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It all comes out good. It all comes out good. So
I can't wait, man. Well, I can't wait for the fight to get announced. I'll be watching this season. I'll be hitting you up, getting reactions from you, man. You know that. I'll be checking in with you. And, I think the world of you, brother. Keep crushing it, man. I'm so fucking proud of you, dude. Keep crushing it.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro.
brother.
I appreciate
Talk
you.
soon, man.
Thank you for having me.
Later,
yes,
brother.
sir. See you, boys.